I'm going. Hey Instagram, welcome to Real Life Cooking. If you notice, I've upgraded my kitchen. Welcome to Texas. I'm here at the Hawkins household. Obviously we saw football on in the background because you can see it reflecting in there. But today we are making all about Thanksgiving appetizers. So, you know, if you're not that avid at cooking, but you still need to bring something to the table, appetizers are a great thing to volunteer to bring. Today we're going to be making jalapeno poppers, which I learned in my days at America's Test Kitchen on the ship. And we are also going to be making an easy crudité and dip. And we will be also making, what's the final thing? Oh, a hummus or a buffalo chicken dip that is actually chicken, not really chicken, and it's vegan. It can be vegan. We're not going to make it vegan now because I like cheese, but you can make it vegan and I'll tell you how. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, also, one other thing before we get started, we have a new technological guru today. We have Christopher Coy, my boyfriend, on the ones and twos over there. So if you have any questions along the way, please drop them down and he will relay them back to me. They don't have to be specifically related to what we're doing, but any culinary questions, any question about me, Thanksgiving questions, comments, we're welcome to it all. We're here in Dallas, Texas. Thank you to the Hawkins who are allowing me to use their beautiful kitchen. Isn't this, my friend just said this is Kitchen Bay, right? Like this is the most beautiful kitchen, at least I've been in a long time, considering mine. But anyway, welcome, let's get started because we have a lot to do. I'm gonna go ahead and start by cooking our bacon for our jalapeno poppers. And to cook our bacon, I've talked about this a lot of times before. I'm actually gonna cook the bacon in the oven. It is the superior way to cook bacon. It comes out crispy and delicious as long as you don't burn it. But you can also burn it on the stove. It's a little easier to do. You just want to make sure, and this is not a, yes?
They love your hair today.
Oh, I thank you. Who loves my hair? Thank you. Oh, thank you, Johanna. I think Johanna's cooking along. Did you know, if you're just joining us, you can actually cook along. I release lists every Thursday or Wednesday, depending on how my life is going that week. And you can buy and shop along and actually cook with me too. So right now we're getting our bacon ready for our jalapeno poppers. And the easiest way I have found to cook bacon is actually in the oven. So we're gonna just take a lined baking tray, baking sheet, just like this, aluminum foil lined so it's easier for us. And I'm just gonna lay out my bacon on this sheet. We need 6 pieces of bacon for this recipe. And yes, you need real bacon. We're making a vegan dish later, so eat the meat here. If you can't,
Monique likes the kitchen.
If you really don't want to eat bacon, you can try turkey bacon or vegan bacon, but you do not want to omit the bacon from this recipe because this really needs it for the structure of the jalapeno popper itself. So we have our bacon on a tray, our oven at 450 degrees. I'm gonna pop this in there and I'm gonna smell it, and you're also gonna keep the time over there, Chris. 6 to 7 minutes. He has a lot going on over there. It's really hard. TT, we miss you. So we're just gonna put that in the oven.
Monique
6 to 7 minutes. Yes.
Monique wants to move to the kitchen, and Clayton says, "I'll never cook bacon any other way again after learning this method."
Oh, great. Monique, I don't think you can move here. But Clayton, I'm glad that you have learned this method because it really is a superior method. It's no mess. Like normally we're all on the stove, bacon splattering everywhere. It's horrible. Just in there, 6 to 7 minutes. A little longer if you want crispier bacon. Next, we'll move on to our jalapenos. And I'm also gonna need a baking tray for this. Now, if you have a baking rack, which I suggest that you do, because it's a really versatile tool that you can use in a lot of places. But if you don't, it's fine. But if you have one, we would like to layer our jalapenos on that tray just because that air circulation is gonna help make the jalapenos cook a little bit better and not get as soggy. But don't worry, real life, it's not the end of the world. If you don't, you can totally do it without one. It's just if you want superior product, then I would suggest investing in a baking sheet. And they're not that expensive. You can get maybe a set of them, a baking tray and a baking rack for maybe like 20 bucks total. So it's not really that expensive and you will be a much better cook for having it. So
Gary says an awesome game day appetizer.
Yes, Gary, these are an awesome game day appetizer. The jalapenos, before we start cutting our jalapenos, I want to give you a warning if you're cooking along. Johanna, this is for you. Jalapenos and peppers in general have something called capsaicin. And capsaicin gets on your hands, your eyes, your hair, like your dog. Everyone's unhappy. It's really, really strong compound that can make you cry. Like, it's really just unfortunate if you get anywhere. So if you have gloves and you're scared, maybe put them on. If you don't, just be aware that chilies have this thing in them, and if you get it in your eyes, you're gonna be really unhappy. So just remember to wash your hands after. So I have my jalapenos here, and I'm just going to slice them in half, all of them first. Now, ideally, you would like your jalapenos to be all the same size, and these are strong. I can smell them. Like, you can definitely tell how strong a pepper is by the way it smells. But yeah, you want them to be all the same size, because if they're not, they're gonna cook a little unevenly. Again, not the end of the world, but if you spent, unlike I did in the grocery store, just maybe 1 minute extra comparing your jalapenos, then they'll be a little more even in size. Do you have a question? Oh. All right, so I'm just slicing all my jalapenos in half. So this will equal 24 jalapeno poppers. I'm also leaving the stems on here because I think they make a cute little handle, and they make for a nice presentation. I'm just gonna do all of them once. I find that when you have to do a lot of a task, it makes sense to do all of one task and then move on to the next task. So I wanna cut them all in half first, and then I'm gonna rinse off my knife because I won't need that for my jalapenos anymore. Then I'm going to take out all the seeds and the ribs, because we're filling these, so we need the space to put them in. Now, remember that compound that I was talking about called capsaicin? The seeds and the ribs of the jalapenos actually contain 15 and 100 times more of that compound. So even if the flesh of your chili is not that hot, which I'm pretty sure these are, because like I said, I can smell them. If they make your eyes water, they probably are strong. The seeds and the ribs are gonna be really strong in that capsaicin compound. So just a note, like if you're making a pico de gallo or something and you didn't want something quite as spicy, make sure to remove those ribs and seeds from your jalapenos. So just keep going, removing all of these. I have my producer over here telling me notes. I'm surprised he doesn't have note cards for me.
I was asleep before this.
All right, so you can also half this recipe. Say you're not feeding a whole army of people, although these are really good. When I used to make them on the ship, I would sell them as concubine, or not concubine, what's the word? What's the word? Contraband. Not concubines. I was not a pimp on the ship. But yes, these would go a long way because they were so good. You're gonna see, they're so cheesy and delicious. They're the perfect balance of like grease and spice. Like Gary said, a perfect game day appetizer, perfect snack if you're kind of hungover because it has that spice and that extra cheesiness. But this is probably the hardest part of this whole recipe, removing all these ribs. And it's actually a relatively inexpensive appetizer to make. That's kind of luxurious because it has a lot of cheese, but the cheese that we're using stretches out a long way. And if you are just joining us, welcome to Real Life Cooking, where we make a meal from start to finish that makes sense for your life. These episodes in November are a little bit different because we're focusing on Thanksgiving food. Last week we made cider brine turkey, so I showed you all how to make a juicy and delicious turkey. We use cutlets, but the method works for your large turkey at home as well. And this week we are making appetizers, all about appetizers. Easy and fulfilling appetizers that will take super short amount of time, but will go a long way and have your friends thinking you're a culinary genius. All right, so, another good point about chilies, if you have any cuts on your hands, the capsaicin will get inside of those cuts and burn, like similar to lemon juice. So really be careful if you have any small nicks or cuts or paper cuts. It's really an unpleasant experience. Also,
You're making one more time.
so today we're making jalapeno. Well, right now we're working on our jalapeno poppers, but we are also going to make a crudité platter with dip, yogurt herb dip, and we are also going to be making, I keep forgetting, a buffalo chicken dip. That is actually chicken. It's vegan. It can be made vegan, but we're gonna add cheese here today, but I'll tell you how we can make it vegan later. All right, so I just finished taking all of my jalapenos, seeds, and ribs out. There's a few little seeds left in there. And I want to make sure that they're not touching and they all have room to breathe before I put them in the oven. Because if they're all stuck together, they're just gonna, and I'm gonna rinse off my hands because remember, chilies have capsaicin in them. We don't want that in our eyes.
Bacon. I want
Oh, who's counting the bacon? Thank you, TT, at home for watching the bacon. Always there. Our bacon is actually not done. It probably, but we can start to smell. You smell it?
Yeah, it was 6:42. This is actually 7 now.
So we're gonna let it go like another 3 minutes, and it'll be fine. 3 minutes, TT. Thanks. What I'm gonna do with my jalapenos now?
Fresh_management wanted to know if this is on YouTube.
Is this? Yes, fresh_management. It's so weird calling people by their Instagram name, but yes, you can find all my episodes on my website. Oh my gosh, I just like inhaled a bunch of chili. On my website, chefleen.com, and they're actually all uploaded onto YouTube by the next day. So yeah, you can find all my old episodes on YouTube. Right now, we're waiting for our bacon. I just sprinkled our jalapenos with salt. The salt is hygroscopic, and it's gonna draw out some of that moisture, which is gonna make our jalapenos nice and tender. And we're actually going to pre-bake, what's so funny over there? We're actually gonna pre-bake these before we fill them.
Fresh, so you can call them fresh with a money sign as a yes.
Oh, fresh money sign. All right. I hope I answered your question. So you want to give them a generous sprinkling of salt. If you have that baking rack at home, you want to turn them actually upside down so that water can kind of leak out of the chilies as well. I'm going to go ahead and put these in my oven. And my oven is going to be at 500 degrees now. And these are only going to go in for about 6 minutes. On the middle rack. Yeah. Don't tell my secrets. All right, so let's move this out of the way and go ahead and get started on our vegan. Those chilies were like really strong. I have it in my throat right now. But actually cooking them one time through is gonna make them a little less strong as we move forward before we stuff them with our cheese.
Is the bacon okay?
Is the bacon okay, TT? You worried about the bacon at home?
I don't want to get in trouble. I'm only stubborn.
You know what I'm actually gonna do? Since this is my first time ever cooking in this beautiful kitchen, whenever you're cooking in the oven, you never really know how it's going to react, which is why I always say recipes are guidelines, not rules, and why I'm checking my bacon more often than usual. You also want to rotate your pans, because I notice in this oven in particular, it's cooking more on one side than the other. So one side of my bacon is getting like pretty crispy and the other side is not so crispy, so I'm just going to rotate the pan so it cooks evenly. Oh, can you also watch 5 minutes? I feel like these will both be done at the same time now. All right. While we are waiting for our bacon and our jalapenos to cook, I'm just gonna bring over all of my stuff for my vegan buffalo chicken, everything's in quotations, my buffalo chicken dip that is actually vegan. So I just need a bowl, I need hummus, I need garbanzo beans, I need some garlic. I'm gonna use parsley. Well, I would like, if you have parsley at home, use parsley, but I'm gonna use some scallions because it's real life and I forgot. I had one opportunity to go to the store today and I forgot parsley, but don't worry, it'll be fine. So I'm gonna use scallions, and we also are going to use some mozzarella cheese. Now this is the part, oh, and of course, hot sauce. Now this is the part, the cheese is the part that is, if you want to make this vegan, you can use like nutritional yeast or something like that. It gives it that cheesy flavor without the dairy inside of it. But because I don't have to be vegan, I'm going to add the cheese. But if you want to be cognizant or aware of people that are vegan, go ahead and just use nutritional yeast instead. This recipe is really great too because it's very, very easy to throw together. We're using canned garbanzo beans, also known as chickpeas. They're a great little snack to throw into salads. And this is actually gonna be our chicken of our dish. And you'll see how we do that in a second. You just wanna rinse off your chickpeas. And how I rinse off without dirtying any strainers or anything is I just filled the can with water and I shake it around. And now I'm gonna just strain it right in the can. It's just as effective as dirtying a whole strainer, and you don't have to wash a strainer after. It's really great. And you want them as dry as possible. Sorry, you guys can't see the sink, but it's okay. All right, so you want them as dry as possible. And then you're gonna add them to a bowl. And now this is the fun part. we're going to take a fork. Where's the fork? Here we go. We're gonna take a fork and just smash them down. What happened? My iPad storage is full. It's okay, iPad. We're just gonna smash them down because we don't want to puree them because we want them to mimic the chicken, like chicken texture. So obviously we don't want to throw it in the food processor and puree them, but we also don't want them to be these perfect little round chickpeas because no one's gonna think that's chicken either. Although I do think that if you are vegan or vegetarian, the point is not to figure out how to make things taste like meat. The point is just to make vegetables taste better than ever. I feel like fake meat is pretty gross to me, like Seaton, I was gonna ask Chris, like he knows, he does not know. He would not know. Or tempeh, I really don't like, I'm not a fan of tempeh. I'd rather just eat really good vegetables and legumes and make them as good tasting as possible.
What is legumes?
Legumes, like beans, lentils. Learn something new every day, right? All right, so I just took my chickpeas, and if you can see, I kind of just mashed them with the back of a fork. So they still have some texture to them, but they're not all perfect little round balls anymore. I'm just gonna give it a little bit more smushing down. I also, before I add anything else, I wanna add some salt because these beans out of a can, although sometimes they have high sodium, they don't actually taste salty. And salt is what gives things flavor, so you wanna make sure that you're layering in, you're layering your layers of flavor. Layering your layers of flavor, yes. Okay, now we're gonna add in some garlic, a garlic clove, and we wanna mince that. Oh, I don't wanna use this little knife, I wanna use this big knife. My trash, ooh, what about our bacon, everyone? And our jalapenos.
Oh, yes.
Our bacon is done.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and take this out.
Chef Hollywood said he's watching from Bali until his service goes out.
Oh, hey, Chef Hollywood. That was Chef Drake that was on a few weeks ago when we made our Korean fried chicken. That was a really fun episode. So I just have our bacon out.
He's in Bali.
Bali, yeah. He's in Bali before he goes on another cruise ship. He's actually on vacation, not working in Bali, I think.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So when you take your bacon out of the oven, you want to just go ahead and remove it from that sheet pan, or else it's just going to sit there and get greasy and gross. Because I have hands of steel, I'm going to go ahead and just take it off with my hands. But you know, if you want to use tongs, that's perfectly appropriate. All right. Also at this time, I want to take out my jalapenos, which has been in for about 5 minutes. Because I don't want to cook them so they're mushy. I just want to make them a little bit more flexible and bendable before I fill them. And I'll just leave these over here while we finish up our buffalo chicken dip. All right, so we're gonna mince our garlic. And sadly, the only sad thing about not being in my own home and being in this kitchen, I'm totally not complaining about being in this kitchen, is I don't have my favorite tool, microplane. Microplane, if you have watched the show before, you know I love my rasp grater because it makes things like zesting oranges, lemons, I just dropped my garlic in the trash, zesting oranges and lemons, like super, super easy. So today, I have to mince my garlic like a peasant. How sad, right? But it'll teach you guys that it's possible to mince garlic without a rasp grater. It just takes a little bit more time than your rasp grater. So how I'm gonna mince my garlic, I'm not gonna just go at it haphazardly, just like this, because you wanna always think about what you're doing when you are mincing something or cutting something. I'm gonna actually make thin slices. Actually, I'm gonna move this out of the way. Sorry, Instagram, you don't need to see the can opener. As thin as possible slices out of my garlic. And then I'm gonna take those thin slices. So I have thin slices like this. The clarity in here is amazing. And I have thin slices like that, and then I'm gonna make little planks out of that.
Somebody wants you on the Zay ZZ would love to have you as an episode on his podcast.
Oh, awesome. DM me. Email me. My email's on my Instagram too. Just hit me up on the side. DM. Oh, my boyfriend's like, don't dive in her DMs. All right, then once I have these little planks, I'm gonna turn all my planks to one side and mince my garlic. So now that I've been a little bit smarter about how I'm chopping my things originally, it's gonna be a lot easier to make that paste. Now I'm gonna actually put my hand here on this part of the knife and just keep running through until I have small enough pieces. This dip is going to be cooked, but you still don't ever want just like big giant of garlic pieces. Because you want people at your party or your Thanksgiving to like want to talk to each other, and if everyone has garlic breath, like that's gross. So just take your time when you're chopping your garlic and mincing your garlic. I've also Chris is listening, everyone.
Terrence Parker says different kitchen, chef hands.
Oh yeah, different kitchen today. Also, if you want to mince your garlic a little bit, you can add a little bit of salt. For the same reason we added our salt to our jalapenos, it kind of just helps break down those cells a little bit quicker, and it'll actually turn into a paste a little bit easier. So I'm just running my knife through. Again, I'm missing my rasp grater, but I'm grateful I'm in this beautiful kitchen. And there we go. This is pretty good now. This is, again, I've talked about how never, ever, ever to use that garlic out of a jar. Please do not throw this in here because that garlic is so strong. So this is the garlic paste that I've come up with. Here we go, right into our chickpeas that we've mashed. That garlic in that jar, so garlic has a property called allicin, and the longer it sits, the stronger it gets. That's a rhyme, kitchen rhymes. I should write a book, kitchen rhymes. The longer it sits, the stronger it gets. So it becomes almost impossible to even eat. And in something that's fresh and nice, you wouldn't want to use that. Now, this recipe gets so easy now. Oh, I do have one more thing to chop. But I'm going to add in just store-bought hummus. Cheating. I love cheating when it makes sense, possible. Yes, you can make hummus from scratch. It's actually pretty easy to do, but you do need a food processor, which I know not everyone has. I actually don't even have one in our house in New York City. You just blend a bunch of chickpeas and tahini and garlic together and lemon juice, and then you have your hummus.
What's tahini?
Tahini is sesame seed paste. I'm just also going to chop up some scallions. I'm going to use the tops and the bottoms. The way I do that is I'm just going to make everything to one little piece, and then I'll just run my knife as close as possible through. And your knife moves, not your vegetable, when you're chopping something.
Just plain hummus?
Just plain hummus, yes. I don't think you'd want to add any extra flavor in here. I mean, unless you're like a super garlic lover, maybe garlic might be good. But anything else will be too much with the hot sauce, I think. I think the whole point is to taste like buffalo chicken, which is basically all your flavorings coming from your hot sauce. All right, I'm gonna add in these green onions, also known as scallions, into our mixture. So in our mixture, we're making our buffalo chicken dip. We have our chickpeas that we smashed. We have our hummus, our store-bought hummus, just regular plain. We have some green onions or scallions that we just added in. And now I'm gonna add all the flavoring of this, which is our hot sauce. And of course, we're using Frank's because we put that on everything. Not really. Actually, I've been teaching myself how to like hot sauce. It's an acquired taste.
That's the best one.
So you're gonna add in about a half a cup of hot sauce.
You got a measuring cup?
I have a measuring cup in my head, thank you very much. A half a cup of hot sauce. And then we're gonna add in a half a cup of cheese. Now, like I said, if you wanted to keep this vegan, you don't have to add in the cheese, but I would add in like some nutritional yeast or something to help like make that cheesy flavor. And now, all we simply have to do is mix this together. Now, this is a great, if you're trying to be healthy, aren't we all? If you're trying to be healthy, this is a great alternative to buffalo chicken dip. I have a soror who makes buffalo chicken dip, like the real kind, with I don't know what, but it has all kinds of heaven goodness inside, but I'm sure it has all kinds of mayonnaise and cheese and everything in the world inside of it. So this is a nice, healthy alternative, and it's a meatless alternative for your vegan or vegetarian friends at your party. Before I put this in to bake, I'm just gonna taste it.
Cloudy Chef says he loves hot sauce and he's making his own hot sauce.
Nice. Yeah, if you have the opportunity to make it, this is really good right now. Oh, Mr. Hawkins has returned to his home. We've been living the Caucasian life in your home for the past 2 hours. I'm gonna add in just a little bit more hot sauce just for that added flavor, and because
JoJo said, what kind of cheese is that?
this is mozzarella cheese. I'm a cheesy person, like I love cheese, and the more cheese the better. I'm gonna add in just a little bit more cheese. I'm gonna just give this one more last mix. Man, this is so good.
Steph said, Renita's buffalo chicken dip is the bomb.
Renita's buffalo chicken dip is the bomb. Like if you ever have the great invitation, this bowl is not big enough. If you are ever invited to Renita's house, you need to ask her to make buffalo chicken dip. That I could spread that on my skin. I probably would have attracted Chris faster. All right, so now I'm just gonna put it into a baking dish. You want to put it in the dish that you're going to end up serving it in, so you don't have to transfer it once it's nice and bubbly and hot. And I'm just going to spread it in there, and we're going to put it in the oven for like 20 minutes. It doesn't really have to necessarily cook. We just want it to be warm and delicious and melty. That cheese is going to melt in there. If you do have a food processor, I'm going to just sprinkle it with a little more cheese. If you do have a food processor, you can just do this whole thing in the food processor. You would just put the chickpeas in first and give them a whirl. Again, you don't want to break them down because you do want those pieces to mimic chicken. And then you just mix everything else in, throw it in the oven like we're going to do now. Hot. All right, now we are going to move on. Let me just clean up my area. I always say clean areas make better food. What are you moving around over there? All right, so now we're gonna bring over all of our ingredients for our jalapeno poppers. Jalapeno poppers, we have egg. Well, we only need 1 egg yolk, garlic powder, cumin, lime. We have cream cheese, sharp cheddar, and panko, and our bacon, but I'll get that later. We're gonna need 1 more bowl. Oh, and we also have some greenery, cilantro, and our scallions.
Be careful, the oven's hot.
Yes, the oven is hot. I've realized this before. All right, so we're gonna have this bowl here. That's where we mix everything in. The first thing that I'm going to do is deal with our cheese because that's the hardest job. We actually have to grate it. I do recommend when you're, sorry, my pants are falling down. I do recommend when you are making something that is heavily reliant on cheese to actually grate your own. And there's a reason why, not because I want you to do more work, but the reason is because those the cheese I just used, we're probably gonna use about half of both of these sticks. We need about a cup of each cheese. The reason why is those packages of cheese that are already shredded are not as good of a product. They're not actually the best flavored cheese. They also are coated with something to help preserve them once they're shredded, which lends to like not as good of a melting quality and also not as good of a flavor. Now, if you are in a rush, like I'm not gonna judge you if you use shredded cheese, but if you want superior flavor, I definitely recommend, and when something is very cheese-based, I definitely recommend that you use cheese blocks, not the stuff that's already shredded. So like I said, I need about a cup of each. This is our sharp cheddar, which is when you are making something melty, like we're gonna make a cheese filling, or like if you're making macaroni and cheese, sharp cheddar is your go-to cheese for that sort of thing, because basically sharp cheddar is super dry aged, so it doesn't have as much moisture. So when it melts, it doesn't get greasy like most cheeses. It just has like cheese flavor and gets really nice and melty. My next cheese that I'm going to use in these is Monterey Jack, which is, what happened to Facebook? Which is gonna go make it a lot more melty. We're having some technical issues on Facebook. Our Facebook, but it's okay. Instagram, you guys are here, right? We're going to go ahead and add that in, our Monterey Jack. It's frozen. And we're also going to add in some cream cheese. Now the cream cheese is really gonna add everything all nice and melty together. All right, is it on? Can you check on yours?
Video.
Oh, we're starting it over. Sorry, Instagram. Instagram is being reliable today. Hey, Facebook, we're back. Sorry, I don't know what happened. We are working on our filling for our jalapeno poppers. Right now in our bowl, we have sharp cheese, Monterey Jack cheese, and now I'm gonna add in a cup of cream cheese because you can't have enough cheese in your jalapeno poppers. We'll just go ahead and move that to the side. We weren't grating a ton of cheese, but a trick if you are grating a ton of cheese is to go ahead and freeze your cheese before you grate it because it actually makes it a little bit easier to grate. So next, I'm gonna do the harder things first. So I'm gonna chop up just like a tablespoon or so of cilantro and some more scallion. I'm going to just bunch all of this together, just like this. This is how I chop up my herbs to make it most efficient. And then I'm gonna cut as close as possible as I can. So I start with smaller pieces before I end up chopping it all up. Is anyone there on Facebook? Sorry, Facebook, we lost you for a second. Let us know you're there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just rough chop our cilantro and green onion. About a tablespoon of each thing, and add that into our cheeses. We're also going to add in some garlic powder, about a teaspoon of garlic powder. Garlic really balances out the cheese flavor. It really adds some dimension. And the other thing that's gonna add some dimension here, well, the other two things that are gonna add dimension, I never open my spices before I start. I really should. You know, I want you to realize, be in the real life experience here with me, the struggle of cooking sometimes. The other thing that's gonna add dimension is we're gonna add a teaspoon of cumin. That is like a nice smoky flavor. Cumin is actually my favorite spice. It's so good. It adds so much just flavor that is unexpected a lot of times. And then, I guess in Texas they have juicy limes, maybe because they're really close to Mexico, because this lime is super juicy. Normally in New York, I would say add the juice of one lime, but I can feel like the little citrus pieces inside like bursting. So I think I really only need to use like 1/3 of this lime. Remember, the best way to get juice out of your lime is to actually cut it into 3 pieces, 2 off-center halves. So you end up with 3 pieces like this, and then watch how much juice we're gonna get out of here. That, I told you it was a juicy, juicy lime. Like, I wish every lime was like this. We could have margaritas every day. Sometimes I don't have margaritas because I don't wanna. Who's back?
With Sherry, you are back.
Oh, hey, welcome back. Sorry about Facebook. Yeah. I'm gonna write him a letter. I'm gonna write him a letter when this is over. So if you are back on Facebook, in our bowl, we're making our jalapeno popper filling. We have our cream cheese, we have our Monterey Jack, we have sharp cheddar, we have cumin, green onion, scallion chopped up in there. Now this is all great, right? Cheese and cheese and cheese. But now we need some structure. We need to add some structure to this. So
how much cumin and cilantro?
We added a teaspoon of cumin and we added about a tablespoon of cilantro and green onion mixed together. So probably about like 1 scallion and a little handful of parsley or cilantro. A cup of cream cheese. So it's a cup of each type of cheese. We're equal opportunity cheese people around here. I'm also gonna add in a tablespoon of panko, which is a Japanese breadcrumb. Facebook is really tripping right now. Yeah. And I'm gonna add in 1 egg yolk. So I'm just gonna do this over the sink. And I'm gonna add in my egg yolk. The egg yolk, the lecithin inside of the egg yolk is going to cut the grease in our cheese, and it's gonna help coagulate everything together so our cheese isn't just running all over the place.
What was that word?
Coagulate.
Is that a word?
That's not, it is a word, I'm just saying it wrong. Coagulate, there we go. Oh. I got it. And now, of course, we don't want to forget the best part of this, which is our bacon. We're just gonna crumble our bacon inside. Like I said, if you don't want to use bacon, too bad, you have to, just kidding. But you do need the pieces of bacon in here for structure. So don't skip out on the bacon if you really must. You can use a vegan bacon or a turkey bacon, but it really adds to the structure and helps it not fall apart. So please, please, please add in some sort of bacon or else your cheese is just gonna ooze out and go everywhere. All right, before I get my hands nice and disgustingly messy or deliciously messy, however you would like to, adjective you'd like to use, I'm gonna wipe off this cutting board first.
People are coming from Instagram to say from Facebook.
Yes, Facebook is tripping right now. So if you're on Facebook and you have Instagram, go ahead and check out our Instagram feed because it seems to be going perfectly over here. Hey, Instagram, what's going on? I can't see you because I wear glasses. But yeah, so we have our jalapeno popper filling in here. Before I get my hands nice and messy, I'm gonna bring over our jalapenos that we've pre-roasted in the oven. The reason I told you that we did this is because we wanted to get some of those waters out and make them nice and tender so they won't be crispy. So what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and mix this together with my hands. My hands are my tools of choice here. You could use a fork if you want, but why not get messy? This is so good. I could like just spread this on toast and eat it by itself, probably. It's so good. Now, I can't take credit for this recipe. I actually learned this recipe when I was working on the cruise ships. I worked on the cruise ships for 5 months. I think we have some more visitors, well, actually people that live here. They're not visitors. I'm the visitor here. Hey, Courtney. And where's the dog? Oh, no dog yet. I was looking forward to the dog interrupting with the barking going on. All right, so now all I'm gonna do is stuff my jalapenos. The way I like to do this is just take a little bit of filling, roll it between my hands to make sort of like a hot dog shape. It kind of makes the shape of the jalapeno already. And then just go ahead and stuff it in just like this. Now, like I said, I can't take credit for this recipe. I learned it through America's Test Kitchen. It is their recipe, and you guys are so lucky that I'm teaching you it because America's Test Kitchen, they test their recipes just like their name says. They test the recipes like 50 to 60 times. They spend $600 to $700 each recipe testing every single ingredient against like a blind tasting group to see what is the best method to cook something. So their recipes, if you follow them exactly, no substitutes. So actually I'm kind of cheating because they definitely say use a baking rack. No substitutes, your recipes will be perfect every single time. They're one of the few websites that you actually have to pay for to subscribe to, but it's totally worth it if you're really into cooking and you really want to be successful in your cooking, because that is their goal in life, is to make you a successful home cook. I have a little different approach. Like you've probably heard me say a million times, you don't always have to have everything. There's always room for substitution, which, you know, didn't go over too well sometimes when I was representing America's Test Kitchen. But, you know, real life happens. But if you are in perfect scenarios, America's Test Kitchen, get all of their ingredients, all of their recipes, all of their tools. They test everything, and you cannot go wrong with their recipes. This recipe, their brownie recipe, I made a lot of friends on the ship, just not sharing those things because we weren't allowed to share things on the ship. So yeah, right now I'm just filling these jalapenos. This question?
Any recommendation for making a vegan jalapeno popper?
Eat a jalapeno. Vegan jalapeno popper. I've never tried it at all. This has 3 different kinds of cheese, and bacon, and eggs, so that would be a little difficult to replicate in a vegan way in terms of replacing things. I know there is a good vegan cream cheese. I think it's called tofutti. It makes really good vegan desserts. I'm not sure how it bakes so well for something like this. That's something I can play around with and get back to you on. Who asked?
Cloudy Chef.
Oh, Cloudy Chef. You're a chef, you figure it out. Just kidding. Just kidding. So see, these come together very, very quickly. You can actually assemble these up to a day before your, whenever you're planning on serving them. And you can just wrap them in some plastic wrap. And then when you go to bake them, you're just gonna add 3 minutes to the baking time. So I'm just gonna wash my hands off, or lick my hands if you guys weren't here. Lick all this cheese off of here. And I'm gonna throw these in the oven. The oven is at 450 degrees for another, Chris has to keep time again, for 10 to 12 minutes, just until they're nice and bubbly and brown on top. So I'm gonna put these, I missed one. That's so sad. See, I told you guys America's Test Kitchen doesn't play around. They like measure everything exactly. If you do it exactly how they say, you'll never have leftovers. They are really good. I feel very grateful to have worked for them and learned some tips. And now you guys should feel grateful because I shared them with you. All right, so I'm gonna throw these in the oven. 450 degrees, 10 to 12 minutes. Check on my buffalo dip. My buffalo dip is looking good in there. Buffalo chicken dip, just made with chickpeas. It probably needs another 5 minutes. Do you have some time on the clock now, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so 10 minutes. We're gonna check our jalapeno poppers. And actually in 5 minutes, we can probably take out our buffalo dip. All right, so let's bring over the last final things we need for our crudité platter. We need all of our things for our dip. Our yogurts, more garlic. And we need a platter, of course. Here we are. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on our dip part first. Because actually, when you're making these sorts of things, if you make them ahead of time, maybe an hour or two ahead, the flavors are actually gonna meld together and it's gonna be a lot more flavorful than if you just try to make it and then serve it right away. Not, again, the end of the world if that happens, but if you are thinking and you have the time, then you might wanna do this a little ahead of time. So I'm using Greek yogurt here, which is what I asked you guys to get. I'm gonna use about a cup of it. Greek yogurt is different than regular yogurt because it is strained 3 times, which makes it a lot more thick. Like notice normal yogurt kind of drips. This one is not drippy. And it actually is a little healthier in terms of it has more protein because it is strained 3 times, so it's more concentrated. So it's a good alternative. A lot of these dips, about a cup, a lot of these dips that you have around Thanksgiving or the holidays, they're made with mayo, they're made with cream cheese, so this is a nice lighter alternative. So in this dip, we're making a herb dip.
Any particular brand you prefer?
I normally like to use this I don't know if it's Fage or Fage. You know how things are like pronounced weird, but it's F-A-G-E. And I normally use a 0% milk fat. Just again, because there's so many things, especially on a day like Thanksgiving, that are heavy and late, like cream filled and everything. So it's nice to have some healthier, lighter alternatives. So for our herb dip, now this herb dip is super versatile. You can use any kind of delicate light herb that you want. And you're gonna need about 1/4 of a cup to each cup of yogurt of chopped herbs that you're using. So for this one, that particular one today, I suggested dill. Dill's a great one. Parsley, which again, I told you I forgot. So I'm gonna substitute some scallions, which are gonna add a nice oniony flavor. You can also use tarragon, you can use cilantro if you want, you can use, what's another light herb? Oh, mint actually is good sometimes. Anything that's light, nothing with a stem, like thyme, has like woodsy stem, and rosemary have woodsy stems. You wouldn't want to use those because that's just not really gonna pair very well with the lighter yogurt and your crudités. I mean, well, we could go down that road. Just don't use heavier woodsy stem ones. You could, but not now. Yes. Facebook is down?
Yeah.
Oh. All right, so we are going to go ahead and just chop up our herbs. This is another thing that could not be simpler. I'm not gonna use for my scallions the heavy white parts, and I'm gonna try to avoid using so much of the stems of the dill, just because they're a little harder to chop up and become nice and stemmy. All right, so again, just like I chopped my herbs for my buffalo chicken dip, I'm gonna make like a little tight ball out of them here, and then I'm just gonna run my knife through just like this. Nice and close. Careful of my fingers. And then I'm gonna run my knife through the other way. Remember, you wanna be in control of your knife. You don't want your knife to be in control of you. So when you're chopping something, you wanna grab your knife, put your thumb right here, and wrap your hand around this way. Not like this, just like this. And when you get down to chopping your herbs up, it's okay to put your hand here just to steady your knife a little bit. And you wanna use a rocking motion, so rock. I like move a lot when I cook, so I think it helps. And I don't want any herbs to be stuck in my teeth because that would be embarrassing at a holiday party. So I want it pretty finely chopped here. And I'll just add this to my bowl here, just like so. And I'm going to add, you can add fresh garlic if you want to mince it. If you are running short on time and you don't want to add fresh, you can add garlic powder, which is nice. About a teaspoon to cup of yogurt. We also want to add in some lemon juice, which I'm going to wipe off this board of these greens before I cut into my lemon. I'm going to cut just offside again, just like I did with my lime, but I want to make sure I remove the seeds before I squeeze it into my yogurt. We don't want anyone to chomp down on a seed in their dip. And now, cooking is fluid, like I always say. Add in a little bit of lemon juice. Oh, the other thing we want to add into here is some salt. Where did I put? Here it is. I want dry hands when I put my hand in the salt. Some salt into this dip. So we have garlic, fresh herbs, yogurt, and lemon juice. It's very, very simple dip. And I'm just gonna mix it around so you can see it looks like this. You can also make this in a blender or a food processor. Makes very easy work of it. I would put my herbs in first and just give them a whirl. I do find that if you do make it in a food processor or blender, it doesn't last as long because you're kind of like super bruising your herbs so they go bad faster. But to each his own. All right, I'm just gonna taste it since I got this on my hand. I think it could use a little bit more lemon, so I'm probably gonna squeeze in the other half. Yes, question?
I put the poppers back in the oven and they have a lot of extra stuffing. Can they save it?
You can save your stuffing for up to a day. You don't want to freeze it because cream cheese doesn't freeze well, and it won't come out right the next time. But you can save it for up to a day. You spread it on toast in the morning, put an egg on it, bake it in the oven on some bread. All right, I'm adding a little bit more.
When do you have to take the buffalo dip out?
Probably now.
Okay, so it's 47.
Yeah, the buffalo dip we had in the oven for about 20 minutes or so, you think?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be in there for about 20 minutes. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit more salt. This is iodized salt, so it's very fine, so it doesn't make things too salty. All right, one more time, taste.
Put the poppers in the oven. Do I put the poppers in the oven?
Yes, the poppers go in the oven for another 10 to 12 minutes. Are you keeping track of our popper time?
Yes, your popper time is 3 minutes left.
All right, we're gonna take out our buffalo chicken dip over here. A good note is to put it on a baking sheet. I'm gonna just set this over here so we're ready for it when it's ready. All right.
What temperature?
The temperature for our poppers and our dip was 450. Our dip, we just needed to heat through. We didn't need anything to cook in there, but our poppers, we wanted to get nice and brown. And we need the poppers to cook all the way through because there is that egg in there. So it has to cook through. All right, last but not least, the final thing we need to do to get ready for our Thanksgiving appetizers is create our crudité platter. Now, crudité platters are a lot of times something that you just buy at the store because it's so much more convenient to buy that tray that's already ready. But let me tell you, that tray is so expensive. The little tray today, and I'm in Oklahoma, I bought my ingredients in Oklahoma today, so I'm assuming they're a little cheaper than big cities like New York City where I live. The little tray of vegetables was $5.49, and it was like a square this big. It had carrots, it had radishes. I don't even think it had cucumbers. It had snap peas, which no one wants to eat those. Those are gross. It had broccoli, like nasty, uncooked broccoli. I think that's all it had. And then it had the dip, of course, the dip that has all kinds of ingredients that you can't even pronounce, and it's not even gonna be that good, for $5.49. So I bought this whole bag of carrots, and I'm not even gonna use the whole thing right now because I'm not making Thanksgiving feast. But if I was, a bag of carrots I would say this bag of carrots would be enough for an appetizer for 20 people. This bag of carrots is 79 cents. These radishes were like under $1. And these cucumbers were the most expensive thing because I like fancy cucumbers. They were $2.49, but still I got all my vegetables for less than that price of that tray, and I have way more of them to go around. Of course, it is gonna be a little bit more work for me to cut my crudité, into the pieces, but I feel like I saved so much money that I don't really mind so much. And I've been making crudité platters for people I work with for forever, so it's really like, I could do this with my eyes closed. And you can too if you do it enough.
Of course, TT says she loves snap peas.
TT, you like snap peas? I don't know if we could be friends.
What are the fancy cucumbers?
I bought Persian cucumbers, which are, if you've watched the episode where I did English cucumbers versus American cucumbers, they're basically English cucumbers, mini version of English cucumbers. So they have less seeds than your American cucumbers. You don't have to seed them. You don't have to peel them because their peel is not waxy, which is why they're wrapped in plastic, because they'll go bad. Their skin is permeable. I think I used that science word right. So yeah, I find them better. I could actually just eat these cucumbers just by themselves. Radishes get a bad rap, but they do add beautiful color to your crudité platter. So definitely suggest adding at least a few of them. Cherry tomatoes are a lot of times they go on crudité platters, but who eats whole cherry tomatoes? Another thing weird people eat. You do? Whole cherry tomatoes?
Cloudy Chef said the snap peas are lit.
Oh, all right. Well, you and TT, Cloudy Chef, can start a snap pea club over there. Also, a tip: a good thing to put on a crudité platter is what is this thing called? Broccoli or broccolini. But I do highly suggest that you cook it first, or not cook it, but blanch it, because if you blanch broccoli, is much superior to cold, raw, dry broccoli. That's the other thing, those crudité platters that are already done, because as soon as you cut a vegetable, it starts to dry out. A lot of times those vegetable trays, all the vegetables are already really dry and gross, and it's just, look, I made this platter in like 5 minutes talking to you guys. So just turn on one song, kind of like the gym. You can run a song, you can run a mile in like one song, right? Just a matter of getting your mind around it. You can't run a mile in one song?
A song is 4 minutes. Your miles are 4 minutes. Miles.
You better pick Happy Birthday by Stevie Wonder. If you can't run a mile in that song, something's wrong with you.
Cherry tomatoes are bomb with a little salt.
Cherry tomatoes, I like cherry tomatoes, but just not the whole. I need them to be cut in half. I think there's something weird about the way, hey, what about my jalapeno poppers? Who's been watching those?
It's ready.
Oh, thanks. So we have our jalapeno poppers right here in the, fresh out of the oven. They smell super good. I used that plate. I just want to grab a plate. Now you don't want to serve these fresh out of the oven. It's similar concept to like lasagna. You want the cheese to be able to set just a little bit before you eat them, or else it's just gonna ooze out everywhere. Again, my hands of steel are just removing these right out of the package.
I said maybe the Saturday Love extended version.
Saturday Love, oh.
That Stevie Wonder song.
There has to be other songs you could write. That Stevie Wonder Happy Birthday was the longest song that I thought of. All right, so let's just take a few of our jalapeno poppers. These actually would probably be really good with this dip as well. So these are our big ticket item here because they have cheese, 3 kinds of cheese. They have bacon. They have egg. I guess that's not as big. I'll just go ahead and move this over. And finally, our last thing, because we made 2 pretty healthy things actually for Thanksgiving this year, is our buffalo chicken dip. This is how it turned out. You can serve this with tortilla chips. You can serve it with your crudité platter on your crudité, dip in. I'm actually gonna try it now with a carrot.
BK Jojo said she thinks she bought the wrong kind of pepper. They're too small.
What kind of peppers?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe she bought Serrano peppers. Are they really tiny and thin? I'm gonna taste this. I'm scared.
Boy.
Pretty good.
Oh, okay.
I was a little skeptical about this, but it tastes like buffalo chicken dip. It's not as cheesy and like oily and greasy, but in a good way. Because sometimes when you eat something, then you just don't feel like too great after. This seems pretty good. All right, so thank you so much for joining me. If you came from Facebook to Instagram, thank you for following. Got to write a letter to Facebook and let them know that they're failing me today. We made our jalapeno poppers here. Cheesy bacon good filledness We have our buffalo chicken dip, actually made with chickpeas. And we have our crudité platter right here with any vegetables of your choosing. Just a nice fresh herb dip.
Steph said, where's the yogurt?
All of these, the yogurt is in our yogurt dip right here. All of these, as you can see, we made in a very short amount of time. Something easy to bring to your Thanksgiving or any holiday gathering you have. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to the Hawkins for inviting me into their household. I may never leave this beautiful kitchen. See you next week. Next week we're going to be doing Thanksgiving desserts. Thank you guys so much, and check out my website, www.chefleen.com, for any of the past episodes. And thank you to Christopher for being a technological guru today. See you guys later.
We could have watched the